Welcome to Beyond the Surface. With me, Debbie Ann Turnbull. Here we dive deeper than the obvious to explore what really keeps our families safe and our minds strong. After losing my only son Chris to drowning, I've dedicated my life to water safety education and helping others heal. With many years of training and personal experience, I'm here to help you navigate your challenges, because the most important truths are found beyond the surface. Dawn, it is my absolute pleasure to finally get you here today, and I'm really grateful for the time that you're giving us as well. You spent 20 years, Dawn, in the fire service. You've been a UK lead for drowning prevention, and you've also received the King's Fire Service Medal for Distinguished Service. Former chair of North Wales Safety Forum, Water Safety Forum, and an amazing, amazing lady with a contribution to the UK drowning prevention strategy as well. To me, you are incredible, and there's so much behind this, as you well know. Dawn, tell us, what actually drew you into drowning prevention in the fire service?
So perhaps we should go back a bit further than my time in the fire service, because it perhaps helps create a bit of context. But thank you, first of all, Debbie, for inviting me to be part of your podcast. And if I can return the compliment for all the work you've done in Wales and as a parent advocate, and I know the personal investment. I learnt to swim in Wales, believe it or not. My family are Welsh, in a small little town called Lampeter, that my school in Llandovery used to take the children to their swimming lessons in Lampeter. So that's where I got all my, you remember Frosty's swimming badges that you used to get and sew on your towels. That's where my relationship with swimming started. And I wouldn't say I was the strongest swimmer in the world, if I'm honest with you. I was more into athletics than I was into swimming, but my sister was very good. So I wasn't in the swimming team, or I didn't do any competitions or anything like that. But I learnt the basics. And rolled forward to when I was 16, no, a bit older than that. I was probably 17. And I'd gone to college in Haverfordwest, over in Pembrokeshire. And I was studying hotel catering and institutional management. Very grand title, but effectively it was hotel management, really, and beverage management. And as part of that, you had to go and do work experience. So my friend and I, Liz and I, secured work experience at a place called the Glenask Hotel in Llandrindod, Wales, which you might well know.
Yeah.
And we were both living in the hotel and working hard, learning the trade through the summer holidays. I can't remember how many weeks it was. It was probably about 4 or 5 weeks work experience. And in our time off, when we did get time off, because catering doesn't let you have a lot of that, we used to go out with a group of other people that we knew and go and sit by the river and have a bit of fun, or go out for a picnic, or take the train for a day out, or go to the cinema or something. And one particular sunny day in August, all those years ago, I'm not going to tell you how many years ago, but it was a lot, we decided to go swimming. It was a hot August day, and I think we'd probably had some cans of shandy. But anyway, we went swimming. It was fine. We were in a relatively safe spot, not fast running water, but in the river. And it had been dammed up by the other kids to make a big swim pool, deep pool. So basically it was, like a deep pool, but in the river. And we were having fun, paddling around. I was in the water, and I decided to swim over to the other edge of the riverbank. It was very heavily lined with trees. and did that, caught hold of a branch to catch my breath, turned around to swim back, and my leg had got stuck in branches in the water. I had a bit of a panic and tried to shout to the girls. I think that there were 4 of them on the bank. I think they thought I was messing about to start with. And then I went under, swallowed rather a lot of very unpleasant river water, came back up. And by the time I came back up, my friend Philippa was right by my side, very strong, competitive swimmer.
Wow.
And she caught hold of me and she yanked. And she backstroked with me just back to the other bank. It wasn't that far, but I was coughing and spluttering bird this time because I'd taken the stomach full of water. Sat on the side of the bank. I was sick. My leg was like ribbons, all cut, because where she pulled me away, it had scratched. And that was my personal first experience of a near-death experience. And at that time, if I'm honest with you, it put me off going in the water because I knew that I was in difficulty. And if it hadn't been for the fact that I'd gone with mates and one of them was a strong swimmer, it could have not been quite the same ending. Roll forward quite a lot of years, and I had my son, and I was determined to teach him to swim. So I took him to the Save a Baby courses with the Royal Lifesaving Society. Wow. And took him to swim lessons at my local pool that was then in Northampton. And so, determined to make sure that my son could swim. And then roll forward a few more years, and I was working in the Fire and Rescue Service. I started in Northamptonshire, and then I moved to East Sussex and did a bit of time as a government advisor as well. But I was really uber conscious, actually, that we were doing fantastic work with prevention of fire and prevention of road traffic collisions, and some good technical rescue stuff, but not a lot with prevention. Then in Northampton, I was a senior officer, and I had to deal with a very harrowing case where 2 gentlemen lost their lives in water in December many years ago, in iced over water, actually. And it was harrowing for all sorts of reasons. Obviously, the loss of 2 people's lives, but also because of the nature of the incident and the fact that we couldn't go across the ice to get to them. And a lot of my colleagues suffered immensely after that event, and it was obviously subject to a coroner's inquest and difficult for the families, and all round awful situation. But made me really think about what we were doing in terms of giving out advice about not going onto ice, and the fact that it's dangerous anyway. So I started doing some work in Northamptonshire with the RLSS and with other agents on promoting drowning prevention. And that was going back to, oh my goodness me, probably early 200s, so 24, 25 years ago. And then I approached the National Fire Chiefs Council and said, because they had a number of working groups that were looking at specific areas of safety and prevention. And I proposed to the then head of prevention that we ought to do a water safety and drowning prevention group and involve all the fire and rescue services and put together some guidance, advice, etc. And his words to me was, "That's a really good idea, Dawn. The world loves a volunteer." And I thought, I'm not sure I'm qualified to do this, because I was only an area manager at the time, and most of the officers leading those working groups were, up in the assistant chief sort of rank. But anyway, I thought, well, let's see how we go. And it was then that we established the National Fire Chiefs Council's group, and I chaired it up and more or less up until I retired. Basically, and then handed it over to another colleague. And the idea behind that was to improve the awareness amongst every fire and rescue service in the UK, put together some tools and toolkits, And Debbie, you were one of the first people that I contacted after hearing you on the radio. And you were interviewed by BBC Radio Northampton, if you remember that.
Gosh, yes, I do.
Yeah, many years ago now.
My word. Oh, my gosh, yes.
I contacted them and asked for your details and got in touch. And you were one of the early contributors to the campaign we set up, which is called Be Water Aware. It's still going, National Fire Chiefs Council. And out of that grew the concept of listening to people with lived experience, to parents, to lifeguards, to emergency service workers that had been involved in rescues, and to people that had lost people in drowning, but also to people who'd experienced, as I did myself, sort of difficulty in the water, and trying to make sure we put together information. And after that, so this is all the history really. After that,
I love it.
I joined the National Water Safety Forum. I hounded a chap called David Walker, who worked for ROSPA, who are a fantastic organisation. Dave, shout out. And said, how can I get involved, Dave, in the work that the National Water Safety Forum are doing? And it was from that Fire became a member, the National Fire and Rescue Service Chiefs Council became a member of that group, and helped at that point write the national strategy. But anyway, that's the background as to how I got involved. So it goes back, if you like, a bit further than the fire service. But
no, you just brought a memory back now that was so vivid, because that was 2 boys in Northampton, and I actually met the parents when I went over there. And I went back to school probably for 2 or 3 years after that as well to support them. Really interesting time. So in 20 years, Dawn, what do you think's changed the most?
So I think definitely producing the national strategy was a big milestone. And we produced the English one first, or the UK-wide one first.
How was that?
In 2016. Well, the reason we did it was the National Water Safety Forum were really the authors of that. And I think the Welsh and the Scottish, the devolved administrations, were still getting going back in that day, but we involved them in the production of the UK one. And that was in response to the World Health Organization's drowning report, if you remember that, all the way back there in 2014, which basically said that every nation should be doing something about awareness raising and having a plan. So in the absence of knowing which government department to go to, the National Water Safety Forum took that on, drafted the first UK's drowning prevention strategy. And yeah, that was a milestone, that was a starting point. And we launched that in the UK Parliament back in 2016. And then after that came the next one was the Scottish strategy for the devolved administration, which was important because their education system is a little bit different. And some of the things we'd written in the UK one didn't apply exactly the same way in Scotland. And then came the Welsh one, which I know you were involved in, actually. So it was significant is that it was the first strategy, but it triggered the other two. I think apart from the strategy, the other most significant thing is having improved the partnerships, getting different organisations, fire, police, lifeguards, charities, councils, to work together on a little bit more of a unified approach. Because historically, everybody's away going and doing their own stuff. And sometimes the messages even sort of were a bit similar, but kind of almost rubbed against each other. So, and we were conscious of that we would be better and stronger together with a bit more of a unified voice. So that's definitely the case now. And a couple of years ago, we launched the Respect the Water website. And that gives consistent and coherent messages from all the different partner agencies. And we've obviously produced as well a toolkit for parents and schools as well. So that's definitely been a big change. I think the last thing I'd say, because there's loads, but I'm trying to pick the significant ones, is the influence we've managed to galvanise with ministers and government departments, because, I think they saw the individual instances, like the drowning there, or the issue in the lake there, or the issue in the river, or whatever, but they hadn't got a sort of cohesive view of the data and the facts and understanding of numbers. And I think data is key here, because it helps people focus on the real issue.
And how do you use it, Dawn, to actually create targeted prevention activities?
So you'll be aware that we, through the National Water Safety Forum, we launched, or there was already WADE, which was a database for collecting incidents, but we launched a platform where people can now go on and look at the data, where people have drowned, when they drowned, what the location was, what the weather was, what day of the week it was, what time of the day it was, gender, causation factors, insofar as we can establish them. Were they out swimming? Were they boating? Were they not even intending to be in the water? That sort of thing. But what that's allowed us to do is to get a little sharper with the audience that we're trying to address these safety messages to, but also understanding the why.
Yes.
And last year, we commissioned some research which was published from the National Water Safety Forum, it with Leeds University and a couple of other eminent people who you'll know. So Professor Tipton was involved, which absolutely nailed the correlation between the air temperature and drowning risk. Because what we know to be the case, and this sounds a bit glib to say it, but drownings happen all times of the year. They happen when people fall through ice, or when they fall in the water accidentally, or because it's muddy and the banks are slippy. But the acute phase of drowning is when the weather is hot. We see more instances, and that research proved the fact that the risk of drowning when the temperature is around late 30s, 40 degrees, increases tenfold, because of simply in a way, because of the number of people that are attracted to go into the water. But I think you need that sort of research and nail the data to then target, well, what time of the year, what are we going to trigger a public message when we know there's going to be a heat wave, for example. So definitely data has led to better messaging into target audiences, but also in relation to causation.
And what would you say would be your most successful initiative, Dawn, personally?
Personally, well, can I choose two?
Yeah, go. I'm sure you've got a lot
more. Possibly, but you said personally, but there are lots nationally.
Yeah.
I think not for me. I think Respect the Water is powerful because it's a national campaign and it brings the partners together, which is so critical. And there are lots of people doing fantastic individual campaigns, but actually there's power in having combined voice. So that's number one. And I feel I had some part to play in making sure that happened. And then the other one is probably the Be Water Aware campaign, because that's the fire specific one. And we started from ground zero. There was nothing. And actually it's now the busiest campaign week for the National Fire Chiefs Council in their calendar year. And that's quite remarkable, really, when you consider that all of those years of history of fire safety and road safety that have existed, but actually water safety is the busiest campaign week. That's largely thanks to the partnership work, I would say, and the families and everybody else that gets involved. But I think for me, the critical thing is, it doesn't matter if we rescue people while in fire. Of course it does, because we want to be good at that part of our job. But if we don't get the message out and prevent drowning, then we're failing. So the prevention and awareness campaigns are the two, I think, are the most important things that I've probably been involved in.
But I think, from my part, Dawn, the work that you've done with us as parents is monumental. I mean, I remember, oh God, in the early days, I speaking to you at 11 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, there's not just Debbie that is in that position, that you looked after so many of us that had lost children, and we all, I know, dealt with it in different ways. And, it's after 20 years, I'm going into 20 years now myself. And I think after so many years of watching and learning from people like you, I think it's why people like me are still here.
Yeah.
Quite emotional.
Well, I think, well, you know what I think, but I'll say it. I think parents, families that put themselves out there to prevent a tragedy for another family are, well, I'm in awe. I think you're all inspiring. The energy that takes, the emotion that takes. And yeah, you're right, Debs. I've had lots of 2 o'clock in the morning phone calls with different people or exchanging messages. But, go back to the days, and before I became RLSS chair of Board of Trustees, there wasn't a lot out there for families.
No.
Families didn't know where to go.
No.
And where to get the right information from. And they were working really hard, too hard, to gather stuff. And also, to be fair to those families, sometimes they gathered information that wasn't quite right, because there's a random thing called the internet that produces all sorts of spurious stuff. And I felt it was kind of important to me to help them do what they wanted to do, but with a bit more information and support. And I have to say, the Royal Lifesaving Society were brilliant at that. I mean, I wouldn't say they were brilliant for everybody, but they were one of the charities, because they are the UK's drowning prevention charity, that people could reach out to. But also the RNLI have done fantastic work supporting families, and also some great and powerful stories about people that they've rescued as well, saving lives at sea in particular. And I think, those people that, and it's not for everybody, going back and retelling a painful part of your life, the most painful part of your life, is emotionally exhausting. And you know that as well, and as more than some, because you've been doing it for 20 years. But for those newly bereaved, that sense of wanting to get answers, the anger, the angst, the not getting clarity, the delay in inquests, the difficulty in getting hold of information, it's enormously shattering. So, one of the things that I did for a couple of parents on the QT, really, because I've been to a lot of inquests in my career, unsurprisingly, because of the nature of the job that I did. And so we organised a few sessions with colleagues in the fire service who are experienced at presenting evidence and attending inquests, to just chat to parents before the appointment, so they knew what to expect. And in some instances, down here in East Sussex with one family, we did a visit to the local coroner's court in advance, so they went in beforehand, because that's quite daunting, isn't it?
Honestly,
courtroom.
I think mine was in December, and to sit there with people you don't know with press all around you. I mean, we got there and I remember here in Llandudno, and the press were all around us, the cameras were going.
Yeah.
You didn't want that. And then people coming up with microphones. I'm thinking, oh my God, I can't deal with this. And yeah, that I've never really thought about maybe thinking about doing something about that.
Yeah, and you know,
it's so daunting and it's frightening.
And actually, I have to say, in fairness, the coroners are, although they haven't got the time and the capacity to do it, because usually they have quite a small office, there are some charities that do that do court preparation. Being in that room and seeing the layout of it, and then just talking through, you know, I know you're here to get answers as a parent or as a family member, but actually the prima facie reason for this inquest is to establish the cause of death. So you might not get all the answers you want. You might not get to say everything you want to say. You don't get to ask witnesses or other people questions. That's the job of the coroner, because this is a legal process. And helping people understand the process and visit the courtroom in advance, I think, would take a lot of that anxiety out.
Gosh, yes. But a lot of people also never get the answers. And I think that it's like you can't put your child or family member to rest because of that. And I think that's why we get so much anger. And a lot of people, as we both know, are still angry 5, 10, 15 years on. You know, I've kind of I do what I do in the way I do it to not be angry. I don't think I've ever been angry, but I've in that sense with grief, but I've been angry about the system at times, and the way certain people have operated unprofessionally, sadly. But I do think in the almost 20 years that I've been working through this, I feel personally we are on a very positive trajectory. I do.
I think, you know, I understand what you're saying, and I'd say everybody's experience of loss is different, and the circumstances surrounding the death are quite different. You know, I can think of, and I'm not going to name names because that would not be professional of me. I could think of families who've lost loved ones to drowning. They've never had the body back. You've never been able to recover the loved one. I can think of families who've lost a loved one in a situation that should not have occurred, and outside the control of the individual or their family, and where they've campaigned for improved safety features and licensing, and had, you know, worked tremendously hard to get new legislation in place, because of, you know, the failure of an organisation to do something properly. And, you know, each one of those experiences is very different. So I understand why some people are angry. I understand why some people feel let down by the system. I absolutely do. And I can't put that right. You know, I can't put those things right. But where I see injustice, I do try and raise it.
I know that.
Yeah, do try and raise it. And you know, many people have also now tried to intervene to help with the healing side of things. I mean, I think you've done a lot of work. Andrea Corrie has done a lot of work. She's a member of the Compassionate Friends, to talk about bereavement and what it feels like. You know, she's written fantastic books.
Beautiful.
Beautifully written, such a talent with the written word. In fact, I'm hoping to go down to one of her working workshops.
Oh, wonderful.
Writing workshops down there in Devon. But people have dealt with it in different ways, and some spiritually and some with anger. But I understand. I understand their different approaches. I try not to ever judge how that damage, that hurt manifests itself, because it manifests differently in different people.
It does. Yeah. Dawn, so well deserved your recognition for the King's Fire Service Medal. Truly recognised. How did it make you feel?
Well, I think to start with, you think, that can't be right. Somebody's pulling my leg.
I did.
You get this letter and you think, hang on a minute,
Yeah.
what's this? By royal warrant, hello. What have I done wrong? I thought it was a speeding fine to start with. I hasten to add, I haven't had too many of those as a detective. But yeah, a bit humble, really. Obviously, it's an immense privilege to be recognised, and it was the first honours round by His Majesty, which kind of felt a bit additionally special in a way for me. And the fact that somebody's gone to the trouble to write the nomination, and other people have offered their views as well, because obviously it needs support. The nomination needs support. Yeah, it gives you a bit of a warm glow, doesn't it? I think, if I'm honest as well, the chance to go to Windsor, I had mine at Windsor Castle rather than Buckingham Palace, and to go there with my husband and my son for the day, and you know, and to receive the honour from Princess Anne, who has been a patron for the Royal Lifesaving Society, who I've been involved with for a lot of years, was also, you know, really lovely. My dad, who's passed away this year, sadly, was a old Welsh farmer, and I don't think many things impress my dad, if I'm honest. Unless, you know, you bred a really good sheep or something, or could strip a tractor engine. He was the salt of the earth, but my dad was immensely proud of that. Obviously, couldn't, because you could only take 2 guests with you to the ceremony, and I chose to take my husband and my son. But we had a little family thing afterwards, and my dad was really proud. And I'll tell you how I knew he was proud. He said to me, because I was going to Wales afterwards, after I'd got it, and he went, "Well, I hope you're going to bring the medal and show me then."
Bless him. Oh, Dawn.
Yeah.
Oh, bless. Dawn, it's been a privilege and a pleasure. I'm really emotional. Is there anything you would like to, what would your message be to any parent now? About water safety, what do you want them to tell the kids? What's your biggest point you'd like to make?
So, you know, for people that don't know, that are watching the podcast, you know, around 600 people die in water in the UK every year. And the at-risk group are, and I'm generalising here, but 15 to 25. Brave enough to go out on their own and have the courage and want to have fun and audacity, not really to have thought about the implications of what they're doing, if I'm honest, or fueled by their mates or fueled by alcohol or whatever else. So they're quite a difficult group to reach, because we can get to the kids in school and we can educate young children. And I do believe in the long term, you know, as they get older, some of that will stick. But some of it slips when the hormones kick in. So I'm going to target a message directly to parents and families of teenagers, if I may. Encourage them to have fun and to use the water safely. And that means don't say, don't go to the river or the water or lake, because guess what? If you say don't, they're gonna. But help them think about making sure they've not gone alone, making sure that somebody's got a charged mobile phone with them, even better, if they're going for a fun day out, maybe take something that will float. You know, if somebody gets into difficulty, doesn't matter if it's a blown up plastic football, or, you know, I often use the tip your big litre Coke out and it's got air in it. At least it's a bit of buoyancy. I'm not saying you have to take a life jacket with you, but if you are planning to do something with water, maybe safety equipment is a good idea. But enjoy the water safely, improve your swimming skills, know what to do if you get into difficulty, watch the videos from the RNLI in particular about the Float to Live campaign, because that's saved lives. Understanding that sometimes you can't swim your way out of difficulty, you've got to get on your back, get your face out of the water and breathe oxygen, and give yourself some time to calm down and think. Be a mate, know what to do in an emergency, and also take a phone or a flotation device and a flotation device with you. All of that is shared in our safe messaging on the Respect the Water website. If people don't know, have a look. But, you know, I think it's critical we do something to reduce the deaths in water. It's a bit static. And the reason it's static is the audience at risk changes. So once you've learned the message and you've got through that safely, there's another youngster coming up finishing their exams that's just joining the at-risk group. So this will be a task that we never finish. And I know that equally is frustrating for parents that have lost children, and they think, oh, we're not doing enough because there continues to be drownings and there should be no drownings. And of course, in theory, there should be no drownings. But the reality is there will always be deaths in fire, as there will always be, you know, deaths in road traffic collisions, because there are accidents and people take risk. But my message to those parents and families, and maybe to the teenagers themselves, though I'm sure I'm quite cool enough to give them direct messaging, is just think, be safe, enjoy the water safely.
Thank you. Wow. Oh my. Thank you. It was beautiful messaging. It was on point, and just a huge big thank you. And enjoy your retirement, Dawn. I've been watching.
Yeah, lots of crochet.
You're still there.
Lots of walking. Yeah. Oh yeah, and I'm still involved with the Royal Lifesaving Society down here in Sussex, and still promote messages and things that other people put out there to help convey the message. Yeah, I'm not as active as I was, obviously, but yeah, I'm doing work with other charities as well now, other things that matter to me and my family, particularly around health issues. So, but I'll never ever give up on wanting to ensure that people are safe in water.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you so much. If today's conversation has connected with you in any way, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. To hear more powerful conversations like this one, like and subscribe. For practical resources from today's episode, please check out the details below, where you'll find free downloads, workshop information and ways that we can work together. If you're ready to take the next step in your family safety journey or your mental and spiritual well-being, I'd love to support you. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and remember, you have everything you need within you to protect what matters most.